You are watching Pause. We pause for a second or two. How do we keep life coherent when there is so much changing? This is episode 237, Pausing as Centering Technique. In life, we are faced with many different kinds of situations. We meet with a lot of different people, a lot of different intentions, and we are pulled here and there. We are also pushed here and there. Pushed and pulled between all these complex, nuanced situations, each specific, each asking its own unique question to us. So, as we live our lives, it is useful to have some way of centering. Coming back to the same center point. And people make use of all kinds of different creative ways to center oneself, emotionally center oneself between one situation and another. Some people go to a prayer, some sort of prayer that connects them with the same core, and that the words or the sequence sort of puts us in this same center point. Other people use some sort of gadget or token, some sort of physical thing, like a string of pearls or a string of beads or a photograph or some small token. Maybe some accessory or something, like a necklace or something of the sort. Some people use mindfulness and meditation techniques, perhaps going back to our breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Finding that same sort of center of ourselves. Other people go to some sort of thought, some sort of belief, telling themselves something that they know to be true. Okay, I was in this situation, and now I am centering by telling myself this thought, and then I can enter a new situation. Some people remind themselves of a role model, some person they know, or some person they follow. Could be someone like an idol, someone they follow, someone they look up to. Could be a religious figure. Could be some sort of artist or philosopher or celebrity even. Someone helping us to sort of find this sort of centering feeling between one situation and the next. The center. And these are but a few examples of many different creative ways we have to center ourselves emotionally between very different kind of situations. Today's episode is called Pausing as Centering Technique. And the emotional skill that we're talking about today is our core skill, pause. Pausing is at the center, at the beginning of everything we do here. Pausing is the foundation upon which we can build many things. And pausing is the definition of pausing, is the practice of taking a second or two to recognize what is going on. The practice of taking a second or two to recognize what is going on. So you can see me doing it right now. Simply giving myself a second or two to recognize where I am and where I want to go next. And this practice, this core skill of ours, pausing, it can be a way of centering ourselves. So we find ourselves in one kind of situation, meeting a person or some people. And then as we exit the situation, we can give ourselves a pause. So we pause for a second or two and recognize what is going on. What kind of situation did we just leave? What did that mean to us? Okay. Kind of do it in this kind of informal kind of way, kind of casual. And then as we move on to the next situation, after we have centered by pausing, core skill pause, we enter the new situation, the next situation, with some sort of takeaway. We have some sort of takeaway from the previous situation because we paused, we centered ourselves, and we took a moment to recognize, what did that situation mean to us? What changed during that situation for us? So then, as we are entering the new situation, we have a takeaway with us. It is not hanging loose in the air. It is a coherent next step from the previous step we made. And us, having centered and paused, being the sort of link between the previous situation and the next one. So we become like the link or the glue, creating coherence between situation and situation. We become the coherence that we are looking for. And the neat part about it is that when we use pausing as our centering technique, we pause for a second or two, and we can choose ourselves what we want to recognize, or we can at least choose ourselves what to make of it. It becomes personal. It becomes relevant. So, let's say we just left a tough situation, a difficult situation, or a painful situation. And then we're entering a new situation, being perhaps light or enjoyable. That sort of transition from a tough situation to a light situation becomes very different if we have taken a pause in between or not. It will just feel very different to us. And the opposite is also true. If we just came from a light-hearted situation, something fun or joyous, and then we enter something difficult, something tense, something perhaps even terrible, that will also feel very different to us if we have made a pause in between or not. If we are centered going in or not. And in these times that we live in right now, there are a lot of very different situations going on. More so than in calm and peaceful times. Then the situations seem to not be so contrasting. Now situations are more, there are greater contrasts between different situations now. And therefore, we as people have a greater need for coherence between the situations. It demands more of us because we need more in volatile times such as these. It is simply more difficult to go situation to situation now when people are more on edge. So we pause for a second or two and recognize what is going on. This is how we center ourselves. And we spend a moment with ourselves, becoming more clear in our own eyes, how we felt about the previous situation and what we want to take with us entering the next one. By doing so, we ourselves become the coherence that we want. We become the bridge, the link, the glue, the words, the communication between situations, so that our life can feel more whole, even in these more turbulent times. It is difficult, it is challenging, but with some practice it is possible. At least to a degree that feels meaningful. Not perfectly by any means, but enough to feel meaningful. That is using pausing as our centering technique. And it can be used as a complement to any centering techniques you are already using. That's the neat part. That's it for today. Thank you.